believer in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So, our good friend Chris O'Brien is in New York getting things set up. But this is something I wanted to mention before we go on, because Chris has talked about the San Luis Valley Camera Project for so long that he's finally started a fundraising program. And there's a thread on it in the Paragraphs forum called "You Can Help Make the San Luis Valley Camera Project Become a Reality." And he has something called, what's it called, Patreon, Goggs?
Yeah. Patreon sound, it's like you can be like a subscriber financially to somebody you follow on YouTube or whatever, and Patreon's just like a donation system. Because you know YouTube had that huge thing where they started demonetizing videos so they wouldn't run ads on certain videos with certain content. However, they use algorithms mostly to do this. And there are so many mistakes that this algorithm makes, like, it'll demonetize one video because of something that's silly, saying, oh, it's not family friendly, it's this and that, when it's not actually that. And, you can complain to YouTube and get a human to look at it, but they've got so many accounts that it's very difficult. And some of the popular people on YouTube are making decent living from their advertising. And then there was this huge crackdown, wrong in my opinion. So that's what's happened. But people are getting money instead from things like Patreon.
Well, we have an official Paracast YouTube channel, but it took us a while just to be approved for monetization. And even then, we're really at the low ebb. It's going to take quite a while before we see much money from it. And of course, you see on YouTube, we have people who say, why do you have commercials? And I say, because we're a commercial radio show. And just like 82 other shows on the GCN network, there are commercials. If you don't want the commercials, join Paracast Plus. I guarantee you none of them has done that. And there's not enough YouTube traffic to replace that, even if we had permission from the network to post ad-free. First of all, we'd lose Paracast Plus income, and we couldn't replace it because there's not enough income from YouTube because of all the crackdowns.
When I'm listening to the show and, listening to it on just a normal podcast, 7 presses of skip forward, and then that's you past the adverts. It's no big deal, really.
And we look at it this way. If you really don't want those ads, for $1.49 a week, you subscribe to Paracast Plus, all the network ads are gone. Every one of those network ads. The only thing you hear close to an ad is when, say, a guest will promote their book or will mention Paracast Plus a couple of times. That's about it. The rest, it's ad-free. And we know it's that way. And then we give you a little bit better bit rate, so the audio quality is better. We offer the After the Paracast podcast. Say that 5 times, Goggs, in succession, After the Paracast podcast, which has extra stuff. And last week, don't know if you listened to it, Goggs, but last week we had Tim Beckley and Don Ecker. And Don Ecker is everybody's favorite curmudgeon. I like him. He's a great guy. But he'll get mad. And he was screaming at Tim, and Tim was screaming at him for a section in the middle of the show. And then a minute or two later, after the dust-up was over, they were like old friends again. Go figure.
That's what curmudgeons are like.
I mean, I like them both. These are people I know very well. Tim, I used to work for many years a door or two down from Tim's apartment. So I'd frequently drop in and say hello. So, like I said, Tim and I had dust-ups when we were teenagers, but, he's somebody I really like, and he's a wacky, eccentric guy. And I think we lose a lot when he's gone. He's not in the best of health these days when he's gone. Speaking of which, it's been months since we've had you on the Paracast or seen you in the forums. What's going on, Goggs?
Yeah, I had some, I won't go into it fully, but I had some medical treatment, a form of chemotherapy, and which is over, and it did what it was supposed to do. There was an unexpected side effect, though, as I've seemed to have suffered some permanent damage to my bone marrow, and that's where you make red blood cells. And that's gone a bit to pot, so I'm very low on red blood cells, and I'd had shots of this stuff that the, like for instance, Lance Armstrong, a lot of these cyclists, they would inject this stuff called EPO. I can't remember the full name, but basically it tells your body to make blood cells. And that obviously is very useful in sport. If you can increase your red blood cells and your oxygen carrying capability, and it's a natural chemical as well. So initially you couldn't test for it because you expect to find it in a test anyway, and that worked and stuff, but it's got bad side effects to do it, regularly stuff. So anyway, this is, as I said, the doctors were not expecting this, and it seems to be a permanent thing. But anyway, I'm feeling fine, and I'm working and stuff, and yeah, I'm back here kind of thing. So I was pretty down for a while, but hey, I'm back.
Well, we're glad of that. Have you been following the wackiness in the UFO field?
Well, yeah, and I'm in terms of the Paracast, I'll tell you, I'm a bit behind, and I've got up to the interview with, Chariots of the Gods. What his name's escaped me. Von Däniken.
Eric Von Däniken, yes. That's the one we had with my good friend David Halperin. And David is such a gentle guy, an easygoing, gentle guy, and he's somebody I've known for 10,000 years. I'm just joking. But he disassembled Von Däniken, something fierce.
Yeah, I agreed with both of them to a point, but he was very polite and kind to Eric Von Däniken. But I didn't agree with everything that David said in terms of, all this stuff about Enoch and, which stuff is written in the first person and which stuff is fantasy and I don't know how we say any of the books, the Bible, if any of this is supposed to come from God, what was it dictated to the people who wrote it? I just don't get this whole thing, and to kind of sort of assume that, well, no, the writers were just always or half the time kind of doing things from a fantasy point of view or doing it after the fact. And I actually half side with Von Däniken with some stuff in that you just have similar themes amongst many religious texts around the world that, as far as we know, were these people writing them were not in communication. And maybe not all the stuff that he writes in Chariots of the Gods or whatever is correct. And I disagree with a lot of it. But there is a core stuff there that is weird. And whatever way you look at it, there are definitely fantastical paranormal happenings in the Bible in many of the books. And I can't claim to have read the Torah fully. I've read some, or, the Quran, but most holy books do seem to have some pretty strange stuff going on, and so I think David was a little bit hard on Von Däniken, although I've heard many interviews with Von Däniken, and he does accept that he used to write stuff like landing strips at in Peru for all the lines that are in the Nazca lines and stuff like that, and he accepts now. He said, no, I'm just making ideas to make people think and stuff. I don't think he actually thinks that's what they were, but there are stuff that he highlights and that around the world. I think Chariots of the Gods, for a lot of people, it just gave an entry into a whole world of stuff they maybe didn't know about, the kind of hidden archaeological history and the weird things, the weird kind of historical mysteries that exist around the world that are pretty unexplainable. And so, yeah, I think Eric does have something to say, but a lot of it is a bit extreme.
Well, he likes to think he was the first guy to do it. Hey, we've got Brent Raynes joining us this week, so we'll continue our guest co-host, Goggs Mackay. You're in
the Paracast.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great T-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Were you born before the year 1956? If so, did you know you could be collecting between $575 and $2,200 in tax-free income right now? All thanks to the FHA. Or what about this? Did you know 54 U.S. congressmen have used a special tax-free account to earn up to 35 times more on their money? It's true, and you can do it too. These are just two of the secrets revealed inside a stunning new book from the Palm Beach Research Group and Ted Benna, the man behind the 401k. You'll discover the 18 best cash cows that can help you earn up to an extra $6,800 a month. Just go to 501kbook.com right now. If you're at or near retirement, this book is a must-read. You can get your own free copy. Shipping and handling charges apply. Just go to 501kbook.com right now while there are still copies left. That's 501kbook.com. 501kbook.com. Just go to 501kbook.com right now.
You have been lied to, generation after generation, time after time after time.
If you follow the money, then you understand why America's in the condition it's in.
You created the Star Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11. Through 9/11, then you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie.
This book will open people's eyes. Pre-order now at killingunclesambook.com. killingunclesambook.com.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Go to gcnteam.com or call 855-GCN-MALL. That's 855-426-6255. gcnteam.com or 855-426-6255. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size for incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency. Get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Goggs Mackay rejoining the Paracast as our guest co-host, and we're having a pleasant conversation with him. Our guest this week, booked on short notice, real short, is Brent Raynes. We were going to have another guest, but he had a family emergency, so he'll be here in a few weeks. Brent, you and I guess, have traveled similar roads, but we've never been in touch with each other. How did you get involved in paranormal investigations and such?
Well, it started back in 1966 during the March wave, and I'd always been interested in the idea of could there be life in outer space, you know? And then I read Frank Edwards' Flying Saucers Serious Business, probably in December 1966. I had seen him on, I think, Merv Griffin as a guest one time, and I remember him talking about a landing of a craft or something. I thought, that's really interesting. And we'd had some sightings up in Maine where I'm originally from. And it just interested me to read the book by Edwards of police officers and pilots, people in responsible positions describing these apparent craft. And so I thought, well, I started corresponding with people in early 1967 and collecting everything I could get my hands on. And I was all of 14 years old at the time. So I started a little mimeograph newsletter called Sauceritis. I had such luminaries on my subscribers list or exchange list as Lucius Farish and Gray Barker. Those names may ring a bell.
Well, yeah, Gray Barker. I remember spending a few days in West Virginia, and I drove over to his place, and he was playing with this photo offset machine. Of course, you see, that was a step up from mimeograph. I had a mimeograph machine at home. And we struggled to get this thing to print consistently. And I have to say, I don't think he ever got it to work properly. But he spent an arm and a leg for it.
Oh, me. Yeah, those were the days. And I miss your Caveat Emptor that you used to publish. That was a great publication. I wish that it was still available. You had a lot of great articles.
Was some of that not digitized and put online, Gene? Caveat Emptor issue. Remember, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, the entire library of Caveat Emptor, I don't have a direct URL for it right now, but I've seen the copy, was digitized with the help of Isaac Coy, who was a British-based UFO researcher. And the entire library, which is about 25 issues, was very well digitized and put online. Now, at one point, I thought, maybe I should just take some of these articles, like the exclusive interviews with Ray Palmer and Richard Shaver and lots of other people, take that and put them into a book. But number one is, I don't think anyone would care. I don't think there would be a real market for it. And it wasn't worth the effort. I thought, well, okay, let's just put the stuff online. And if there is a demand for anything, we can maybe do further research in it. But it shows where my head was at in the late 60s through the late 1980s. In each case, we kind of ran out of money to keep the thing going. I would have liked to. But we had a lot of fun with it. We met some really, really great people, some of whom became permanent friends, others who became regular writers, like, for example, Jim Mosley wrote occasional pieces for us. Richard Shaver wrote for us. John Keel wrote for us, speaking of John Keel. So we had a lot of fun. Do you have the copies anymore where you are?
I have copies. And also one of your contributors was a Floyd Murray from Pennsylvania that I met back in 1972. I've lost contact. I would love to be back in touch with him.
Unfortunately, Floyd is no longer with us. Sad to say.
What was his deal? What was Floyd's deal? Was he a writer, a witness, or what was he?
He was a writer, and he also wrote interesting satire for Caveat Emptor. But he personally was looking into this guy named Fred Lee Chrisman.
Oh, yeah.
A very, very unusual character. And Fred had originally written letters to Ray Palmer at Amazing Stories magazine, the sci-fi magazine. Later, he was involved in the Maury Island UFO case. That's where Kenneth Arnold actually went to investigate it in the Seattle-Tacoma area of state of Washington. Of course, that Kenneth Arnold, the one who had the sighting on June 24th, 1947. He went there. He was hired by Ray Palmer, who was working for Fate magazine at the time. And he called himself Robert N. Webster Palmer because he was still working for Amazing Stories and didn't want them to know what he was doing until finally he left. In any case, what happened there is that Arnold went through this whole scenario of spy story, James Bond things, where people were tapping his hotel room, where he couldn't find a hotel in Tacoma, but one was reserved in his name. He never booked that hotel. Really weird stuff, Maury Island. And Fred Crispin was one of the two harbor patrolmen who was allegedly a witness. Later on, he became, I think, a right-wing talk show host. Some people say he may have been in Dallas, Texas during the time of the Kennedy assassination. Talk about weirdness. Well, Floyd spent a lot of time writing about him. That's what I do remember. We never really ran his research, And by the time I wanted to get back in touch with him, he wasn't here. That's the story of Floyd Murray. I think I'm being interviewed, Brent.
Why not? So how long ago did Floyd pass?
I don't know, 10, 20 years ago. It was a while.
Wow.
One other person who I was very close with at the time is, I think, still around. That was Kurt Southerly. And we had Kurt on the Paracast a few times. And he did something about Kenneth Arnold that we ran on the show. And we had a lot of fun with him. He wrote a UFO-oriented book in the early 2000s and then was a public information officer for one of the military services. See, originally, before he left the military, he was a sergeant in the Air Force. But we trusted him because he was a good guy. So that's how that kind of worked out.
Why not? Why not?
At least somebody who has the expertise.
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin Randall has quite a background with the Air Force, and he seems to write very logically about a lot of things. So why not? If they are disinformation people, as long as they're on our side.
Okay, so you got involved as a teenager, as many of us did, like Alan Greenfield and others. And Jerome Clark, as a matter of fact, who was on last week's show. So that's how you started. Now, I assume you had a real life beyond UFOs, right?
Oh, yes. I'm retired now, of course, but I worked in corrections down here in Tennessee for nearly 30 years, and I've retired from that. I worked in warehouse and commissary, fun, and so that was my day job, and how I kept a roof over my family's head and food on the table. But I've always had a deep interest, an obsession, really. Was aggravate my wife Joan when we'd go on a trip somewhere, and we'd be passing through a town, and I would, instead of admiring the statues or historic sites that most people would, I would say, "This is where back in 1949 this incident happened." And,
my wife doesn't let me talk about that. We got more to come. We've got Brent Raynes. Our guest co-host is Goggs Mackay. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Are you living your passion? Are you pumped to go to work because you get to talk about or work with or do the things that interest you the most? Is working, playing, and relaxing one and the same? As long as you're working for someone else, you'll never be living entirely true to yourself and your passion. I'm Pharmacist Keith. Let me show you how you can work around your current schedule, create the extra income so you can live your passion. Visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com. radio.recordedvideo.com.
Get the ultimate knife at an ultimate price. The Fox Karambit knife. Finally available in the U.S. The Fox Karambit knife opens with one hand, faster than you can pull a handgun. For utility, for defense, and for way less than other knives of this caliber. Go to theultimateknife.com. Truly the best knife you will ever own. And only available at theultimateknife.com. Use promo code radio at checkout for free shipping. Get the ultimate knife at the ultimate price at theultimateknife.com.
It's been said, any society is only 3 missed meals away from chaos. Those times may be near. Think about it. Our country faces multiple terrorist threats and aggressions from Russia and North Korea. Social unrest and violent marches yet again may lead to looting of stores and city shutdowns. And our crumbling infrastructure leaves our power grid vulnerable to long-term outages from a single cyber attack. When the chaos from any one of these threats arises, the government knows it can't provide during a widespread national emergency. That's why you need your own plan for self-reliance. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. Get a 4-week survival food supply for only $99. That includes breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Order online at preparewithgcn.com. $99 for 4 weeks of survival food that tastes like homemade cooking and lasts up to 25 years. From My Patriot Supply. Get your kits today at preparewithgcn.com. Free shipping is included. Preparewithgcn.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-301-5435. That's 800-301-5435. 800-301-5435.
This is a warning to all household pests, to all cockroaches, spiders, ants, mice, and rats. If you've made yourself at home in someone else's home, you'd better hope the owners never hear about Terminix. Because Terminix has the know-how and the means to do whatever it takes to remove you from that home. Terminix has 90 years of experience eliminating home invaders. And they make it easy for homeowners to be protected by offering a free pest estimate by calling 1-800-676-9879. Cockroaches, spiders, ants, mice, rats, and other pests. This is your last chance. With one call, Terminix will remove you from the home you've invaded. If you think you can simply come back later, think again. Terminix will never stop working to keep you out with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Pests. Wherever you are, I will find you. Pests, you've been warned. Homeowners are calling Terminix right now for a free pest estimate. 1-800-676-9879. 1-800-676-9879. 30-day money-back guarantee at participating locations. Limitations apply. See plan for details.
This is Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So pleased to hear that. From Goggs Mackay, our guest co-host, Brent Raynes joins us. Now, right now, you're working with this magazine, Alternate Perceptions. Is that a print magazine or strictly online?
It's online since about 2000. We were a print back in 1985. Started as Para-Ufology Forum, and at that time, in the beginning, it was about 4 pages to start with. It was offset. And then after a few years, Dr. Greg Little, who had been helping me with a lot of material, he's a psychologist over in Memphis, Tennessee. He decided to come on board as a co-editor and help me publish it. And we, it went from this where I just used a typewriter and typed it out and photo offset and then mailed it the old snail mail way. We had a more professional bulletin type, about 12 pages, that eventually evolved into about 56 pages with a print cover, a regular magazine. And we had distributors across the U.S. and then up into Canada. But as you know, things changed a few years later, and the internet came along, and people weren't so interested in subscribing to magazines. They could go online and get their information. So that's where we went. It was online. So now Alternate Perceptions is a digital electronic magazine.
I understand that the newspapers and magazines, that the whole industry has, really been hit terribly in terms of print, because, the sales and were falling so much, the numbers. But I must say that, information and stories, if it's the same article, it's the same information. But I still hanker after actually holding a magazine in my hands, something you can take on a train or on a bus, or, sit down and read. I know we've got iPads and tablets and things like that, and you can sit down with that, but it's just not the same. Like myself and Jean, before the recording, we're just talking about books, and I don't read many books these days because there's so much information online. But I must say that I find the pleasure of, reading an article in the magazine. I still prefer that to reading the same article online. What about you guys, the physical object?
I think of the scene in Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, where Dr. McCoy hands Captain Kirk a book. Also reading glasses because he can't use the solution to clear up his eyes. And I think there's nothing like reading a physical book. And I wrote a lot of physical books, although I don't read many of them anymore. They were just technology books with a short shelf life, although I have the Science 5 books. I enjoy reading a real book. I understand, though, the cost of making books isn't cheap. But what happens now, and I know Tim Beckley takes advantage of this, is that you have print on demand, which is almost like a sophisticated copying machine that makes a book. And you can also do it with these high-resolution laser printers. I have a laser printer here from Brother. You can buy it for hardly more than $100. If you use recycled toner, you pay a fraction of a cent per page. And if you get like a large 1117 laser printer, you could go to a place or buy a machine to saddle stitch it and print your own books for less than offset printing. So you can do that now. That's another way of doing it. But I agree, digital has taken over. And the problem with that is it's easy to get stuff online. It's easy to get the corrections up if you make a mistake. But monetizing is just awful. It's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the, like Mr. McKay just said, I enjoy having a magazine or book in hand, kind of kicking back in a recliner or in bed before I go to sleep and having myself a read, and it's nothing like having the book that you say you're reading. And when you find something interesting, you make a notation in the back of the book and go back to it later. And it's really nice. But I'm old school.
You know, what's interesting is, though, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, as, records, vinyl was going out and you couldn't buy it in the shops anymore. And, the Billboard Top 40, it just wasn't being made in vinyl anymore. And people just thought, it was going to go the way of the dinosaurs and people would collect old vinyl records and stuff. But hey, it's 2018 and vinyl, certainly in the UK, has come back with a vengeance. Things are being printed, new music albums are being made on vinyl now, and it's coming back into the music shops. And we never know, there may just be a demand, or for some reason a cultural change where people think, no, I do want to read a magazine now. So it may happen. Things do bounce back.
The problem with vinyl recordings is the finite life. You start playing it 5 or 10 times, and it deteriorates. So, of course, what do people do? The best thing that you do, a lot of people do, is they digitize the vinyl recording by playing the record and recording it on your computer. This way, the pristine quality of the original before it's scratched up is preserved. Otherwise, you have to spend really large amounts of money for the turntable that will take care of it. So that is the issue. Also, vinyl has that sound, which is equalized. That sounds so pleasant. It's even used as a plot device in some TV shows. I see shows where somebody has an old-fashioned turntable. They put the needle on the beginning of the record and they play it. And this is something where I guess they're trying to show culture or something like that. Let's get back to the UFO thing, though. Like a lot of us, Brent, you started out believing, as the late Frank Stranges did, in the ET explanation. But things began to, shall we say, modify themselves as you continued.
Yeah, within a short time, I was also reading, because I was reading all I could get my hands on. And John Keel, Jacques Vallee, and Brad Steiger, their writings really caught my attention. I've called them the Three Amigos. And, I started corresponding with John Keel back in October 1969 before his Operation Trojan Horse came out. And, of course, Jacques Vallee, his passport to Magonia, certainly was an alternative approach that startled, shocked, infuriated a lot of people in the mainstream field of ufology. And I thought, well, we really do have to listen to these people. I mean, check out what they're writing and saying. They've been, pioneers in this field, and they're out in the field investigating and doing a lot of research. So why not listen to their alternative theories and so on? And so I did, and the more I studied it, the more I thought, well, this is interesting. Keel brought out the psychic paranormal element that a lot of people seeing Mothman, from West Virginia, or having experiences with UFOs, close encounters, contact. There were a lot of paranormal elements emerging from those cases, and he wrote about it in his articles and England's Flying Saucer Review, and people in other countries, were checking it out in the field and reporting that they were finding similar patterns as well. So I think that, Keel got off to a rough start because he was so blunt and brought all these controversial things to the forefront. But I think that he was trying to really do a service to the field and present things where people in ufology would actually try to get on board and study the big picture as opposed to just a selective view of things.
We got much more to come. Brent Raynes talking about how he began to look at John Keel, his works, his books, and his point of view and his research. Goggs Mackay is the guest co-host. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Frustrated trying to get business capital? Want to take the slow process and rejection out of the equation? GCNloans.com removes the slow, irritating approval process. Instead, get quick, simple funding. Powered by David Allen Capital, 80% of our pre-qualified clients are approved in days. Pre-qualify at GCNloans.com and get your money this week. It's that easy. GCNloans.com. That's GCNloans.com.
Ted Anderson telling you about Jordan Rubin's Beyond Organic Green-Fed Raw Cheddar Artesian Cheese featuring whole milk created through ancient dairy breeding, unpasteurized, untreated whole milk on the same farm the cows graze, containing natural sources of omega-3s, CLA protein, calcium, probiotics, and enzymes. I have never tasted cheese this good, and you need to try it. Contact your longevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to GCNteam.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
Healthcare reform is confusing, but whether it's finding an affordable insurance plan, keeping your doctor, or being able to afford needed prescriptions, navigating the healthcare system has become a challenge. Control your own healthcare costs and choices with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is not insurance. It is an association of self-pay patients who unite with like-minded people to share the cost of each other's medical needs. Neighbor helping neighbor. Learn more now by going to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We have Goggs Mackay as guest co-host. We have Brent Raynes joining us. He is the publisher of Alternate Perceptions magazine, which is an online publication that you can Google, and we'll give you the address and everything later on. So everybody can see that publication, and he's telling us how his viewpoints began to look into a more all-encompassing view of the UFO enigma. So still, most people think ETH, extraterrestrial hypothesis. Do you think any of that is involved at all, or what?
Okay, Gene, you can't really dismiss the ETI. It's just that there's pursuing it in a broader sense than what a lot of ufology had pursued in the past that didn't take into consideration perhaps the quantum physics aspects, the parapsychological elements, and whatever the origin, whether it's a parallel world as Keel theorized, or it could be extraterrestrial, some advanced intelligence that's beyond our present comprehension, doing things that clearly mystify us, perplex us, and instead of looking at the big picture.
Brent, what I find is interesting is that like yourself, I had this classic progression with UFOs thinking the ETH must be it, and then being exposed to other ideas where it's a bit more high strange. And we cannot ignore the high strange aspects of many cases. And we know there are many researchers in certain paranormal fields, like in Bigfoot researchers or UFO researchers or ghost researchers. And, to them, it's just that. There is no crossover between these fields and stuff. And I think it's all connected. And it's weird that it seems that half of the field of ufology, in terms of sightings and stuff, it's almost as if the sightings are trying their damn best to appear like they're aliens from another planet, whether they are or not. But it is absolutely an effort to try and look like that. There's no way of knowing where they're coming from, but without a doubt, it's so hard to think that I've said this so many times on the show before, the variety of modes of transport, of how they move, in what they move, how they arrive, how they go away, what form they appear physically, who they interact with, what are they doing when they interact, the numbers of sightings, flaps, everything. There are so many strange aspects to this that I can't remember who said it, but maybe I think Nick Redfern says that, if it turns out that these are just aliens coming from another planet, he'd be disappointed. because he thinks it's far stranger than that. I don't think it was Nick that first kind of said that, but he certainly reiterates it now.
Right. It was Vallee.
That's right. Yeah, it was Jacques Vallee, exactly. And who's still on the go, of course. And I read Passport to Magonia, and I read Operation Trojan Horse. I haven't read Mothman Prophecies yet, but I am fascinated by the high strange aspects, and I read Nick Redfern's Mysterious Universe posts avidly, where he's done so many on women in black, men in black, black-eyed kids, and there's the same themes running through it. And to me, there has to be one. It's almost like there's a paranormal force, and it's at the cause of all these things, and it chooses to manifest in different ways, maybe as a response to what's in our brains or whatever, and that's the reason people have different experiences or whatever. But I think it's the same thing that Bigfoot comes from, that ghosts come from, that whatever. I think it all comes from the same force, and whatever reason this force has a bit like the Force in Star Wars, or religious good and evil, there seems to be a dark side and a light side to it, and it manifests in dark ways and it manifests in light ways. But I think it's all from the same source. What do you think about that, Brent, kind of thing?
Well, that's a lot of that's very Keelian. I mean, John Keel thought there was a reflective factor, that a lot of times it took on an appearance that would be most acceptable to our particular belief systems, and more and more Vallee was moving in that direction, like with Passport to Magonia. He was looking at the little people mythology, as we call it, or belief systems that arose from those encounters centuries ago. And
fairies, yeah.
And the similarities, fairies, leprechauns, gnomes, the elementals, and these beings do a lot of the same things that the beings in the modern UFO contact encounters reported doing, going through walls in a ghost-like manner, appearing, disappearing. They often communicate telepathically, mind to mind. And there was all these belief systems about this how they lived underground, and you could go to a ring of a fairy ring, mushrooms, and the fairies might appear there, and they might sing and dance around, and you had to be careful. You might end up with some missing time if you encountered them, and you might
don't eat anything.
You might show up a year or two later, or 100 years later, and find out you had this missing time. But
have you heard of the Hoia Baciu forest in Romania?
I remember. I read something about Romanian encounters. I'm not sure if that was the same location. A lot of activity, UFO type, entity type stuff back in back in the 1950s, and it was in Flying Saucer Review back years ago.
I think it's in that area exactly, and there's even when Romania was a dictatorship communist state under Ceausescu, they seemed to, the scientific community, the academy there, they didn't seem to frown on the study of this. But I can't remember the name of the guy, but there's been a couple of very credible researchers over there who have been researching these sightings and stuff. And anyway, this forest, Hoia Baciu, it's got like very weird, very strange trees growing in it. They're really weird shapes, and they, like many kind of paranormal hotspots in the world, there's so many stories associated with it. And for instance, as you're saying about missing time, there's a story about a girl going missing, and she was gone for 5 years, and she came back still at the apparent age, same clothes, hadn't worn. It didn't look like she'd had all that time passed. And there's a little circular patch where nothing grows properly. So it's like a little bald spot that's almost a circle in this forest, and this seems to be the kind of the nexus of everything there. And I've seen a few paranormal shows going over there recently in the last few years to go and study it. And they've encountered very strange feelings, like they've suddenly become extremely scared for no reason. This was reported at Skinwalker Ranch as well, that some of these entities seem to have the ability to switch on the fear response in humans, but at a maximum level. And that's been reported. And obviously orbs, I don't mean photographic orbs, but actual, things, moving lights you can see in the forest with your own eyes, and there's no apparent source for these lights. So it's still like a lot of paranormal hotspots. There's probably times where not much is reported, and then you get like a flap of activity. But it's had a bad or a mystical reputation for hundreds of years. But certainly, as you were saying, in the 50s and 60s, there were some fantastic photos taken of saucers and various other objects that were flying over this forest and elsewhere in Romania. Romania and Bulgaria, both places I've been to. Even during the communist times, there was actually a lot of study of UFOs, and there's actually some great cases in these places, like all over the world. But I always mention that there are parts of the world that probably is just a cultural thing, but we don't tend to hear much about UFOs in Africa. But there must be, apart from things like the Zimbabwe school case, and where else, I suppose, maybe some in Egypt. But, for a huge continent, you think we would hear more about UFO cases from Africa, but we don't.
Right, but we know they're there. That's for sure.
They must be, yeah.
And, with Romania, I remember this article that I read.
Brent, let's discuss that article in our next segment, because we have so much more to come. With Gene and Goggs and Brent, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Homemakers. Groceries by mail ships free. Try our amazing bacon. It stores in your pantry. No refrigeration required. Our value-added packaging provides a 10-year shelf life and protects the leanest, thickest, center-cut, fully cooked bacon in America today. Ready to eat right from the pouch or warm and serve. Always priced less than grocery for your everyday use. Savory and delicious. Order today at readytoeatbacon.com. readytoeatbacon.com.
Fellow Patriots, my name is Todd Savage, founder of BlackRifleRealEstate.com. Like you, I was a prisoner of the alt-left sanctuary state until one day I chose to lead my family to freedom. Today we live on a sustainable 20-acre homestead where we shoot, hunt, garden, and homeschool our children without the tyranny of the nanny state looking over us. If you're ready to flee the city to the freedom of Idaho or Montana, our Black Rifle Real Estate team is here to help. Go to BlackRifleRealEstate.com. That's BlackRifleRealEstate.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Oh, I miss that way of saying things so much. This guy's got the most wonderful accent in the world. Goggs Mackay, our guest co-host, Brent Raynes, Gene Steinberg. Brent, I'm sorry to have interrupted you, but we always have to do these announcements, take care of the pieces of business. Go ahead, please.
Oh, sure. No, I remember a case, I think it was 1957, a young college student who was in this area of Romania, and it was in Flying Saucer Review, and they did have a lot of pictures published with the article, one that they thought might be an entity. And anyway, the story was, and I've heard similar stories, and it's high strangeness, where this guy had seen this strange object come down out of the sky, and it landed inside this bush. So he takes a stick and he pokes it into the bush, and the stick disappears. And then he pokes a little further and gets to his hand, and he has this burning sensation. And it was, as I recall, caused quite a bit of pain, but he was okay afterwards. But there's a lot of interesting stories like that. There was another one from Brazil that I had read where a beam of light hit a car that this guy was driving in. The roof of the car disappeared, and you hear stories like this, and you think, what are we dealing with here, I remember Keel writing once in one of his books, his early books, Ghost, UFOs, what's the difference? We build up all these separate disciplines. The ghost hunters are not supposed to, a lot of people feel, to go outside that discipline. The cryptozoologists, they stay within their camp. And the ufologists, a lot of expectation and pressure, social pressure, is they stay in their field as well. And no one, if you veer out, you're becoming part of the lunatic fringe, or you're not part of the solution. But on the other hand, how do you explain all of these other anomalous things that keep cropping up all over the world?
Let's take all the Bigfoot sightings. And you've got people arguing that they're an unknown primate, and you get, let's for instance, say Stan Gordon's research, and there are many cases of Bigfoot or Sasquatch, let's call it, where maybe there's footsteps in snow or something, and then they just disappear, and they've been shot at, and they just disappear. I was just wondering, people always say about how they've got human-like faces, and they feel they've got some kind of intelligence. So let's just go on a wacky thought here. And if humans have souls that when we die can hang around somehow and not go on to where they're supposed to after, and they can be apparitions, well, perhaps Sasquatch has a soul as well. And sometimes people see a Bigfoot apparition, and that's why it can disappear. And that can explain that. So maybe there are real, physical animals, if you like, or type of humans that are Sasquatch, but other times there are almost like Bigfoot ghosts that look solid and stuff, but disappear. So that may be a wacky explanation for the ones that seem to come and go.
I got interested in Bigfoot back in the 70s and went out in the field myself and talked with a number of witnesses and researchers. And I know a case here not far from where I live here now, and here in Tennessee, called Flintville. And it was a small community, and this was out in the country.
Is this one of these ones where they're trying to habituate them and become more friendly with them?
Yeah, there was one elderly woman that I talked with, and in her case, she was throwing food out the back window, the kitchen sink, to this creature she said she was seeing. And then about 3 or 4 houses down, there was a family that they had a young 4-year-old child that the thing had grabbed at, and they pulled it inside the house and shut the door. And there was a gentleman that lived in between him who worked in a grocery store, and he was telling me that he didn't really believe in Bigfoot per se. He thought this was some kind of genetic mutation, crossbreeding between some different species of animals or something. Couldn't tell me what animals, but anyway, he didn't want to believe in Bigfoot or Yeti or any of that. And he was more worried about the hunters who were going around trying to shoot it, or the crank phone calls he was getting. But he told me that whenever this creature was around, which he described a hairy, 6 or 7 foot tall, hair-covered humanoid form. And he said that whenever the creature was around, there were these little balls of light that would appear over the treetops.
Yep.
And in New Jersey, back in 70, 1977, I went down there in April, and I was investigating some stories around the Somerville area. And there was one young man who claimed that this thing, he heard footsteps behind him, and he turned around with his flashlight, and he was face to face with a Bigfoot, and said he and the Bigfoot both were like frozen, sort of staring at each other, while there was a little tiny ball of light a few feet behind the Bigfoot, making kind of a high-pitched sound. And then as soon as the light extinguished itself and the sound stopped, the Bigfoot turned around and went the other way, and he continued on the road path that he was on in the direction the opposite direction. In Brooksville, Florida, a friend of mine who had been through a UFO close encounter and poltergeist activity, all this, went to investigate Bigfoot in Brooksville, which is a well-known UFO Bigfoot hotspot from the 60s. And she was telling me at the time, as I recall, that this was going to be different. She had corresponded with John Keel, and who helped her deal with the issues she was experiencing during the poltergeist manifestations. But she didn't think that the Bigfoot was involved in all of those other elements. And but she got over there and began investigating cases, and pretty soon she and her partner were seeing the Bigfoot and UFOs right in the same areas. And she even showed me a stretch of road, a little 2-lane road where there was like swamp area on both sides, and telling me how this big ball of light had come down in front of her car, landed in the road, and then took back off. And her partner, his name was Dwayne, told me about they were at this ranch where there were all these sightings where they had actually seen Bigfoot, and what they were calling Bigfoot. And this kind of a disc flew low over his head with like windows in it. So from those experiences, I really thought, well, I think there's a connection,
Yeah, there has to be. And sorry, some of these cases you were mentioning, were they mostly in Tennessee?
No, the one with Ramona and her partner Dwayne, that was in Florida, in Brooksville, Florida. And then the other one with the man and the Bigfoot who came face to face, and there was the little point of light with the high-pitched sound, that was in New Jersey.
Yeah, what I find often quite interesting as well is when sometimes you hear these recordings of apparently kind of Bigfoot, and you've got to really imagine the context where somebody may be deep in the northwest of Oregon or Washington woods, or Western Canada. We're talking hundreds of miles from, any city and stuff, or just maybe small towns around. And, there's not going to be lots of people setting up speakers to fake these sounds. And it's quite often these are hunters who've known these woods all their lives. They know what all the big animals sound like. And some of these recordings of supposed Bigfoot sounds are, I can't identify with them. And it automatically gives me a chill up my back, as if there's some kind of genetic memory or understanding on a biological cellular level that is another intelligent creature along the lines of humans, and it's kind of howling and clicking and whatever. It's it obviously can't speak like we can, but it does seem to be some kind of call and different calls and communication.
More to come with Brent and Gene and Goggs. You're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, we've made such a deal with HelloFresh, and it means that everyone listening to this show can receive $30 off your first week of deliveries when you go to HelloFresh.com and use the offer code Paracast30. With HelloFresh, you can choose the delivery day that works best for you. They've got a wide variety of chef-curated recipes that change weekly. And can you imagine me cooking Japanese panko chicken It makes me feel like I'm a chef. It means also that you could actually get your meal cooked in 30 minutes. For busy people, this is perfect. The simple recipes include step-by-step instructions so even I can figure it out. Go to HelloFresh.com, use the offer code Paracast30 to get $30 off your first week of deliveries. HelloFresh.com.
I tried other brands, but I came back to my Sunshine.
For the best hot or cold pain relief, get the best. Get a Sunny Bay heating pad.
Sometimes life can be a pain in the neck, or back, or shoulder.
And the best relief for that pain is a Sunny Bay heating pad. Did you know that the American College of Physicians said that one of the best ways to treat muscle pain is heat therapy? Sunny Bay heating pads are handmade with high quality, can be used at home or at work, and have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy.
Why take another pill?
Many people use our Sunny Bay heating pads alone and got rid of the neck pain.
Long distance travel or long hours in front of a computer can take its toll on your body.
Our homegrown small business tries to help people just like us. That's why we design and test our handmade products with great care before we introduce them to the public. You can easily find Sunny Bay heating pads on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and search for Sunny Bay heating pads.
Most of you know that heart disease is the #1 silent killer in the U.S. What if I told you for just $54.95 a month you could fight against heart disease naturally? At Heart and Body Extract, we've been helping thousands of people get back to a healthier heart. Don't just take my word for it. Check out all of the success stories at hbextract.com. Or to order, call 866-295-5305. That's 866-295-5305. hbextract.com. Don't risk it when you can take charge of it.
With uncertain times in the United States, it's only prudent to consider storing precious metals in a safe place outside our borders. At Miles Franklin, we have done just that for you. Partnered with the most respected storage company in the industry, Miles Franklin is proud to offer the only fully insured private safe deposit box program in North America, held in Vancouver and Toronto. Send us your previously purchased precious metals or have one of our brokers help you purchase something new. Questions? Please call one of our experienced brokers at 866-485-4346. Solid foundational storage, partnered with the most respected name in security. Maintaining an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating and residing in Minnesota, the only state in America that regulates the precious metals industry, making doing business in precious metals with Miles Franklin the safest choice. Call us at 866-485-4346. Again, that's 866-485-4346. Miles Franklin Limited, a name you can trust.
Bacon lovers, we ship free. Try our amazing bacon. No refrigeration required. Proprietary value-added packaging provides 10-year shelf life and protects the leanest, thickest, center-cut, fully cooked bacon in America today. Ready to eat right from the pouch or warm and serve. Savory and delicious. Wholesale price for your everyday use. Order today at readytoeatbacon.com. readytoeatbacon.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Before we get back to Goggs and Brent, let me tell you about the Paracast Plus. It's the answer to the complaints on YouTube and elsewhere that we have too many commercials because, network shows have lots of commercials. We offer you a version of the show with better quality audio, a somewhat higher bit rate, 128K single channels, so it's pretty darn good. And we give you a show that doesn't have the network ads, plus the After the Paracast podcast and other surprises. In order to learn more, go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. Prices start just $1.49 a week, but we offer something more. If you go for a 5-year subscription or a lifetime subscription, we give you free stuff, plus.theparacast.com. Goggs, go ahead, please.
I was just commenting on some of the recordings I've heard. The apparent volume and power of these calls are frightening, and there's obviously to generate that kind of sound takes a lot of energy, takes a very large diaphragm and vocal cords. I don't think all these, maybe some of them are, but some of these recordings to me appear genuine, and I can't positively identify what's made these noises, but it doesn't sound like anything I've seen on a David Attenborough show, or, it is something different. I know. What do you think about it? Have you ever heard any of these apparent Bigfoot calls, Brent?
Not personally. I know that I've listened to some audio as you have. Some I've heard. I can't really tell. I don't really know the people and haven't been to the sites, but it's interesting. Some of them almost sound like they're trying to speak. I remember listening to a recording that Stan Gordon had when I visited him back in 1975, where there was a recording of a creature that was believed to be Bigfoot. Keel believed that these were actually temporary appearances. You would have a Bigfoot or some other kind of cryptid that was seen for a certain limited period of time, and there would be animal mutilations and things occurring in that area, and then it would cease, like it just disappeared from that region, and it might go on for a few days, a week or two, and would often follow that pattern. And he'd say, that a creature that size would have to have a big appetite. And then he thought that maybe they were some sort of temporary, they either went back to another dimension, perhaps where they came from, or else they were perhaps temporary creations, that they were temporary forms that eventually decomposed, because there have been reports, of the creatures actually just vanishing. That would be the end of it. It's hard to say. I mean, it's some pretty spooky, high strangeness stuff has been reported.
Going back to UFOs, what do we think about the current state of the field? And you were mentioning earlier about how maybe UFOs are appearing to people in a form that they can accept, and it's of the time. And we can say that there's been a progression of the type of UFOs and the type of encounters and the type of beings and things like that. I just wonder, my finger's not really on the pulse just now, but, have there been any good sightings recently, or anything caught on film that's, worth looking at? Are there any reported encounters, like encounters of the third kind or better? Is there anything new in the last year?
Well, there are really always sightings going on, whether we're up on the latest or not. And of course, a lot of people don't want to get involved. Of course, there's the National UFO Reporting Center up in Washington State that Davenport.
The missile silo, yeah.
Of course, a lot of those turn out to be have natural explanations, Venus on the horizon or fireball or something. But, I just talked to a family on the phone that had a pretty good sighting, I think, down in Gulf Shores back on April 24th. And they tried to get pictures, but all the pictures are kind of blurry. It was not the best camera to have used, but they did capture a light. It wasn't on a tripod, so it was handheld. So they had about 9 pictures where it's kind of shaky. From their testimony, they really saw something that moved up the shore extremely fast, and was sort of like in one instance, like a globe of some kind, a round basketball-looking thing that split into 2 basketball things, then came back together, and then went down the shore, and then split apart again, and then came back together, and then just disappeared. And they had a feeling that it knew where they were, because it came right up over the hotel where they were watching it from. But there are no telling how many. I know that the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters or Extraordinary Encounters, they have received several thousand reports from people claiming encounters with the non-human intelligent beings, and a lot of the things that they have a survey that people fill out, and there's several hundred questions, and a lot of it deals with the paranormal and the interactions with beings, many times on a psychic level. And we need really more studies to pursue this and really narrow down the locations, too, of where these things are happening and other information.
Remember as well that it's definitely the case, always the case, that, say, of 100 true sightings, how many actually get reported? There's going to be thousands of great sightings around the world that there was no record of. People don't want to report it because they're not into it. They don't want to believe it's something, or they don't think anyone cares, but obviously a percentage is. So I always used to say that there are actually, I don't know if it's an app for like a modern phone, but there are certainly websites and stuff that log visually on the map current or recent UFO sightings. But with virtually everyone walking around with a smartphone now, it'd be fantastic to have a program that just alerts you and says, oh, there's been a UFO spotted in your area. And because these kind of communications are almost instantaneous, there wouldn't really be any lag. And if you're in the area, you could like run outside and have a look up, because, it's all this thing about, you need to look up to see UFOs unless one really comes and forces its presence on you. But just to see things in the sky, people don't tend to look up, and
because they want to look at their iPhone.
Exactly.
This is how our entire world has been totally disrupted, because we do that. The other thing here I want to ask Brent, and this is my bugaboo with more about MUFON's questionnaires and such than the National UFO Reporting Center, is the limited amount of questions they ask about anything other than what you saw. And they treat it like you're witnessing something, an external event, and nothing about your personal experience and your background that might reflect on what you saw. But we've got so much more, lots more to talk about with Brent Raynes and Goggs Mackay, and even that guy, Gene Steinberg. Who's he? You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
It's a no-brainer. A Big Berkey water filter is the one you need, period. You need a water filter that removes chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, BPA, and other endocrine disruptors, pesticides, bacteria, viruses, and much more, right? And does it all at only 2 cents per gallon. Get the original and most trusted name in gravity water filtration, Big Berkey. And now GCN listeners receive 5% off ceramic filter systems using code GCN. Call or click 1-877-99-BERKEY or BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY.
If you or anyone you love has been diagnosed with lung cancer, asbestosis, or mesothelioma, your diagnosis may be the result of job-related exposure to asbestos, and you may be entitled to compensation. Call Capital Legal Group now at 800-400-LUNG. Law firms have successfully recovered over $2.7 billion for their clients in all 50 states. If you or a family member were diagnosed with lung cancer, asbestosis, or mesothelioma, visit 800-400-LUNG.com or call 800-400-LUNG. That's 800-400-LUNG.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
Warning, if you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-5759. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-959-5759. That's 1-800-959-5759. 1-800-959-5759.
Normal blood pressure, naturally. How would that make you feel?
I'm Don from New Mexico. January of 2000, I had a heart attack. Then my real health began going downhill. I had high blood pressure, diabetes, poor vision. I wasn't sleeping well. I was a mess.
Don reports dramatic improvements with Heart and Body Extract.
I started taking Heart and Body Extract. From within a few days, I started sleeping better. My blood pressure normalized. My diabetes normalized. My sleep improved.
Experience these benefits and more when your body heals itself with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract. Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
And folks, I did not expect this at all. By the 7th, 8th, and 9th day, I saw dramatic improvements from taking Heart and Body Extract.
Heart and Body Extract comes with a 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
So as I was saying in the previous section, one of the bugaboos that I have with the structure of investigating UFO sightings and the questionnaires, and more MUFON than National UFO Reporting Center, because there it's kind of, you report what you're going to report, but probably nobody's going to call you back. It's just collecting sightings. With MUFON, they do have the facilities to actually investigate things, but what they're asking there is about what they regard as an external event. You looked at a UFO, it's something external to you. You don't look at the family background. Did you ever see a UFO before? What about a ghost? What about Bigfoot? Did you ever suffer a case of missing time? None of that. And I asked Jan Harzan of MUFON last year. I said, what about these additional matters, which we think are important if you don't? And he said, if the witness includes it, certainly we'll collect it. But they will do nothing to ask the questions in the first place or consider UFOs, again, as anything but an external event.
I've been invited to a MUFON meeting to talk at one time, and I was asked not to mention EVPs and not to mention poltergeist manifestations as I had done a previous time. And I said, boy, that's starting to limit me.
That's shameful, really, because it's one thing for MUFON not to include these questions or not to follow up and check back with people weeks after the sighting to see if anything else weird's happened to them. It's one thing for them to be remiss, but it's another for them to say, no, you may not include that. And that's kind of censorship, and that's the stuff I don't like, when the blinkers are on and it's like, no, UFOs are solid objects constructed and they come from another planet and you witness that and that's that. And it's so narrow a viewpoint. It may be correct. They may get the correct information and build a good picture of what happened. But at the same time, they're just not allowing themselves to even think that other factors may come into play or other experiences may be connected. And because, I have to think that, quite often people who see one weird thing, they have some other thing. As Jean just said, they may have ghosts, poltergeists, or there may be some family history of, the grandmother saw something and everyone and all these things. But definitely the net needs to be cast wider, and the investigations need to basically just have no boundaries. I know you can't like ask an infinite number of questions, but you can certainly just even say, has anything else strange happened, to you recently or in the past? Just even if they had one question like that, it opens up the possibility for the person being interviewed, the witness, to say, well, a year ago this happened, or back in our old house, whatever. But what you just said there, Brent, that was censorship, and that really bugs me.
Back in 1973, when we had that massive UFO wave that was being reported all over the country, I was down in around Jacksonville, Florida, and there was a young woman there who had reported seeing a disc-shaped object with lights around the rim flying low over the treetops right near her on 2 separate nights. And myself and my friend Ramona, who came to investigate the Bigfoot in Brooksville, and also was an experiencer herself with UFO poltergeist manifestations, she was there also. And, I was just learning how to talk to people. And she brought up the point, asking this young woman, have you had any other unusual experiences in your life? And her initial reaction was, well, no. And then she paused, and then she says, well, there was a time that I got a phone call from someone that I knew who was dead, and they wanted to come visit me. And I cried, and I said, no. And then she remembered another time of seeing an apparition. And pretty soon there was, a half dozen or so stories, from this girl who initially said no, but she'd kind of pushed it all back in her memory. And she was mainly focused on what was happening in present time. And then Ramona told me that this is how you need to approach things. Now, I generally go by an unstructured interview approach, and I just let the person tell their story as much as they want, and then ask follow-up questions and ask, has there been any other things that have mystified you or have puzzled you over the years, and see what they say from there. And Jacques Vallee wrote about a woman in California he had interviewed one time. He was following up on a report by some investigators. He had read the reports, and then he went to interview this witness who had seen a craft that rose into the air and then took off down a valley. When he was interviewing the witness, he noticed that the witness said that the UFO, this solid-looking object, actually passed directly through these trees like it was a ghost, ghost ship. Vallee said, well, the report by these other people doesn't mention that. How come it's not in their report? And he said, well, I could tell from the things they were telling me, and before we did the interview, that they didn't believe. Yeah, they wouldn't have believed it. So I didn't tell them. But I said, I can tell you're more open-minded.
I want to stop and interrupt you for a second, Brent, because it's really an interesting point. Do you see any other evidence of that where people will hold back the really wacky stuff because they don't want people to disbelieve them? And certainly an organization like MUFON that's looking for spaceships because they're evangelizing spaceships, they'll never ask the question, they'll never pursue something. But I guess if you make a person feel comfortable that you're not going to laugh at them when they give you the wacky aspects, such as something going through the trees, they may tell you.
Yeah, I have encountered that a number of times. In fact, there was a case that comes to mind up around the Spring Hill area north of me that I was investigating a few years ago, and this gentleman initially reported his sighting to MUFON, but I believe I was the first investigator to actually arrive on the scene and do an investigation. I was in touch with the state head of MUFON at that time, and so I went up and interviewed the people and about he and his wife seeing a kind of disc-shaped domed object flying by the house. And then I went ahead and just, let him tell his story and then ask questions. And has anything else ever happened? And he told of other stories. And eventually I also got in touch with his brother, his twin brother, who lived up in New York at the time, who confirmed a lot of these events that went back to childhood. And but he told me something very interesting. He said that in I think it was Cherry Creek, New York, which I know has had other reports of UFO type activity, that he was hunting up there one winter, and he saw a deer, and he was fixing to take aim, and all of a sudden the deer became a silver-suited being, and this being held out its left hand. He kind of demonstrated for me, and in the hand was a small silver ball, and the silver ball suddenly shot over to him and was just inches from his face. And then the next thing he knew, he was waking back up, laying on the ground.
Let's continue with this in our next segment. Do want to mention here that we got Brent as a result of the fine recommendation from our good friend Tim Beckley, my good buddy, who tells me that On the Edge of Reality, Dreamweavers, Masters of Time and Space by Brent has been published by our friend Mr. UFO Tim Beckley. He says it's available at Amazon.com, and the fascinatingly provocative, this is what he says, home movies of Stella Lansing can be searched for on Tim's YouTube channel, Mr. UFO's Secret Files. He's got over 170 audio and video presentations so far, and he's updating them. That's from Tim Beckley. More with Brent and Goggs and Gene. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Has your body ever gone low blood sugar, feeling weak, shaky, knowing you better eat something fast? We all know high blood sugar can lead to many metabolic problems. At GCNteam.com, we have a healthy blood sugar pack, focusing on the structure and function of stable blood sugar. Find us at GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. Nothing feels worse than unstable blood sugar. Call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
Healthcare reform is confusing. With the loss of the Obamacare mandate, those needing help can now choose an affordable alternative. By joining Liberty HealthShare, you're part of a community of health-conscious Americans all over the country who control their own healthcare costs and choices. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It is an association of self-pay patients who unite with like-minded people to share the cost of their medical needs. Neighbor helping neighbor. Learn more now by going to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, customers, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-261-9818 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-261-9818. Again, 800-261-9818.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We're back with Brent Raynes and Goggs Mackay and Gene Steinberg. Brent, I did mention this book that Tim had published for you a few years back. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, published in 2009, and it includes a lot of the interviews that I did with a lot of people in the field for alternate perceptions. It's basically a book of interviews. We talk about everything from shamanic type events to Bigfoot and UFO close encounter entity cases, and also quantum physics. A lot of good stuff in there. It's a lot of high strangeness, like we've been talking about.
But can we look here for a real unified field theory of the UFO phenomenon, or are these mostly separate events?
Right. This trying to connect the dots, trying to find meaningful patterns. And as I was saying, this gentleman up in Spring Hill, Tennessee, was telling about this experience in New York. And prior to interviewing him a few months earlier, I had interviewed a gentleman who Tim Beckley knows quite well, who was outside. He was a country music singer, a stunt man. And back around 1976, outside Las Vegas, he claimed that he'd encountered a spaceship and a humanoid being approached him in the desert. His car had stopped working. He had the hood up, and this being approached him, and he initially thought that what he was seeing was like a blimp of some kind. Wasn't thinking UFOs, and then suddenly I think there was like a flash on the ground, and there was two beings, and one of them approached him, and he demonstrated how the being reached out with his left hand, and there was a ball in his hand, and it levitated up from the palm of his hand, and it was his left hand. I said, "It was left hand?" And he said, "Yes," because I'd been noticing kind of like hemispheric shifts with different experiences, psychic mediums. This is known going way back. Nanda Forder's Encyclopedia of Psychic Science describes this type of thing. And so here was another example that I heard in the same year of a being with the sphere, and it rose up from his hand, levitated. It grew in size from like whatever it was, a baseball to like basketball or something. And then there were these like explosions around the top of it. And he was explaining how if we didn't change our way of doing things, that this would be like nuclear explosions across the earth, and this was going to upset the balance of the universe. Stories we've heard from similar other contacts, but the left-handed aspect interested me, and I started pouring through the Flying Saucer Review from England and other sources. And in the Flying Saucer Review, which collects all these reports from international sources, had two cases in Argentina and another one in Finland where people reported encountering beings who produced strange spherical objects in their left hand. And they might levitate, they might project beams of light or something. And they also seem to maybe be part of the communications process or some role. For a while, I was working with Free, who's been collecting a lot of contact material, and Ray Hernandez helped me to produce a questionnaire of people having experiences with different instruments, and what hand the being was using, whether they were left or right-handed. Usually it was surgical instruments or some kind of a cylinder or a wand, or maybe something like a cell phone. It was usually right-handed. But it seems that for some reason the spherical objects were left-handed. And I saw on Ancient Aliens recently, William Henry, Tennessee's investigative mythologist who works with Whitley Strieber, he was showing a Da Vinci picture of a Christ figure with a sphere in the left hand, and then right after that showed one of a Buddha with a sphere in the left hand. So I've written to him, hoping he'll answer, because he's more involved in the historical research of those areas, and see if there are other illustrations, portrayals of this spherical object and how it's being handled. I was just talking with a psychologist last night on the phone about this issue, and he said, well, if it's something that we use, say, like a cell phone, where it's giving us information, a digital display or some kind of display, we would hold it, say, in our left hand and use our right hand to perhaps manipulate it. So whatever it is, it seems significant, a pattern that's, if I hadn't been really already interested in the fact that I've had a number of people report voices only to their left side, and kind of like a shift or going left-handed from right-handed during an entrancement with a perhaps UFO type situation, I might well have just not even noticed that these people were talking about, that the left hand was involved. So, there's these little patterns that you try to watch for and see if there's any kind of meaningful connection. And I'm still looking at that, but that's going to be in my book on John Keel, because he looked into all those sorts of things too.
What was the report of the form of these beings? Because we get so many descriptions, and I'm always interested in the small differences, like do they have X amount of fingers, or what kind of hands they have, or how long are the joints, where are the eyes, the nose and stuff. There are so many, even just the fact that some actually are reported to, walk on the ground, where others have kind of floated along. What was the description there in some of these cases you were talking about with the handedness as well, which is interesting?
Well, generally they were like in a silver suit. In one case, the face was not, he could see everything but the face, and that kind of puzzled him. And that was the guy that had the Cherry Creek, New York experience. And he also had experiences with ghosts and when he noticed whenever there was a ghost around, a presence trying to communicate with him from the spirit world, that his left hand would start to jerk. And he was right-handed, and that would happen during these ghost experiences or spirit experiences, and again it's the hemispheric thing, and he would also have some difficulty breathing. And but anyway, getting back to how they were dressed, a lot of times they seem to be in some kind of a uniform, like a silver suit. They appear to be human-like, humanoid, and they were all, there was one that was in Finland that was a female that appeared to this witness twice, both times with this round object in her left hand. And the others kind of got the impression that they were male, particularly in the Argentine and the Las Vegas cases.
Yeah, these kind of, the whole idea of spheres and orbs that seem to know is, not always with UFO sightings, but there's often sightings where there's these kind of floating orbs, and people just get the overwhelming feeling that there's an intelligence there and it knows. And I sometimes wonder: is it the orb thing? Is this the master? And it is projecting the beings and stuff, because it brings a lot of kind of scientific problems to have human-like beings, because it's people think, well, would aliens on a distant planet, would they evolve so closely along the lines of us to end up with 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 feet, 2 eyes at the front of a head and stuff? And yes, you could say that evolution works along similar lines, so that things in the water are going to end up with fins and whatever things to steer and propel themselves. But the similarities and the differences of these humanoid beings, that's a big clue for me as well, that there's something else going on, because it's difficult for me to believe that there are so many different aliens reported, but they're all kind of similar. You get tall greys, short ones, you get tall whites, you get whatever insectoid things. And I do believe that people see some of these things, even the weirder ones, especially the weirder ones.
We're going to have some more weird stuff in our next segment. But I do want to remind you that we give away free stuff for long-term subscriptions to the Paracast Plus. For more information, go to plus.theparacast.com. With Brent and Goggs and Gene, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, that's Goggs Mackay hoping to be Porky Pig. So if they ever want to redo the cartoons, that's all folks know. I want to do that. Let me ask you something, Brent Raynes. I see from your bio that you're coming out with a new book about the one, the only John Keel. What is that going to be out? And what can you tell me? What kind of insights are you going to offer?
It's going to be a few months away since I just submitted it. And it's going to be about, his not only kind of a biography about John Keel, but also how he influenced me and others, and the kind of stories that I investigated, cases, people I've talked with, witnesses, researchers, and other people. For example, I also have some interviews in this. I communicated with some researchers in Sweden who Keel visited these people back in 1976 as well. In 1969, there was a Swedish researcher, Aki Brazen, who went to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, met Mary Heyer and Linda Scarberry and many of the witnesses that we've read about, and spent several weeks down there. And initially he was thinking about getting some kind of a net and trying to catch this creature if it was real. And then he realized that when he got down there that this was not a real logical approach, that he realized a lot of this was psychic, paranormal. And he went back again in 1970, I believe, the year following that, and did further investigations. And he had helped Keel with some material for Operation Trojan Horse back, earlier when he was working on that book, dealing with the mystery flyers from the 1930s and maybe mystery submarines too over in their country in Sweden. And I also was in touch with Håkan Blomqvist, who is a Swedish researcher and involved with a lot of a library that they have over there in Sweden that's collecting.
Yeah, it's the biggest archive, isn't it? It's the biggest archive.
That's what I understand, Yeah. And they're gathering everything that they can. They've asked me for some of my earlier issues of my magazine before it became professionally published. There's, I think, maybe close to 30 that they don't have, and the real early Para-Ufology forum.
That's an honor. That's an honor to have your stuff requested for that. It'll be in good company.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Håkan has provided me with some photos of Keel when he was in Sweden and some of the correspondences they had and such. And so I'm getting background information. I've interviewed Rosemary Guiley, who was a member of his New York 14 Society going back in the early 80s, and used to meet John in New York for dinner, and they had talked, and he had a huge influence on her and many other people. I've got an interview with Paul Eno of Rhode Island, who's had a lot of experience, was investigating paranormal years ago, and believes that a lot of this is, he believes, as Keel believed, that there was a lot of interconnection with these different relationships and with UFO and paranormal, and that he pretty much subscribes to the idea of that we're dealing with other realities, other dimensions.
By the way, we are offering a free copy of the book that Paul wrote with his son for those who subscribe to the Paracast Plus for a full lifetime. We're offering that book, plus other free books. So if you're interested, you'll check out plus.theparacast.com. It's kind of interesting here that Rosemary Ellen Guiley was also part of that New York 14 Society. I went to some of the meetings and probably met those people, but most probably don't remember me or prefer not to remember me. Goggs?
I think it was something to do with, yes, Paul Eno. Last time I heard him, he does I think he does a podcast with his son, but I've heard him on other shows, and they have, they've definitely, according to them, identified one of these kind of a potential window area somewhere in the Northeast. I'm not sure where. I don't think they're being public with it.
It's in Connecticut. I know that.
Yeah. That kind of, I say the Stan Gordon region, that his kind of stomping grounds. And I believe, a couple of weird things happened to him and his son. Very high, strange things, and something that very much goes along with Chris O'Brien. Chris O'Brien has 6 or 7 somethings that are always present when you have a window area hotspot, and it may be there's been long-standing religious or cultural kind of meanings or something attached to a place of worship or something. There's always military presence around, and there's a number of other factors that you tick the boxes, and this always happens. And I believe what Paulino and Ben have identified is possibly one of them, because they were very interested, and suddenly they were researching, and then suddenly there was this military presence in a non-military area. It's not a training area. There's no kind of camps nearby, or forts, you'd probably call them in America. And suddenly they turned up, and I don't know if they bought the land or something, but they stopped people from going where stuff was on. Just a classic kind of case of the military turning up and saying, no, you can't come down here, for whatever reason. And so it does seem that up there in Connecticut and the northeast of the states, there's certainly a few places with some interesting stuff going on. And obviously the location of I forget his name, but Ted, who used to work with J. Allen Hynek. Ted, what's his second name?
Phillips.
Ted Phillips, that's it, yeah. That area, he was researching Marley Woods. And that was kept secret for ages, but somebody let the cat out of the bag, and there's a lot going on there. So there are current window areas that seem to be active right now. And if I were to, it's a long time since I've been to the States, but if I were to come back, I think I'd be heading to one of these places to see if I could catch any sightings. And Brent, have you had any UFO sightings yourself, or any ghost sightings or paranormal events?
Yeah, I didn't at first in the beginning, and I used to complain, why haven't I had any experience, But I've had some strange experiences. One time seeing a Indian blanket, and I've been involved in sweat lodges and such. Used to have a sweat lodge behind the house, for doing meditation work. And one day there's a Indian blanket draped over the top of a dresser in my bedroom, and I'm thinking, wow, I don't remember that being there. My wife must have put it there, but I wondered what it was. It was like there was a big lump in it, and I remember thinking, I guess I should check it out, but dang, what if one of those little Cherokee little people was under there, trickster, Yeah. So I said, heck with it. I'm just going to roll over, turn the light out, and go to sleep. And the next morning, sun's coming in the room. The room is all lit up, and I look over at the dresser, not even thinking about it. And then it dawns on me, where'd that blanket go? And then about 4 weeks later, roughly, there was, I woke up in the night, I turned on the light, and there was the Indian blanket again, a Native American Indian blanket. And I sat up in bed, and I moved around. I took my arms, stretched them out straight, and I kind of went this way and that way. I pinched myself. I made sure nobody could say that, hey, Brent, you weren't wide awake, Well,
we're going to have to do this to stay wide awake. This piece of business. We'll be back with
Okay.
Brent and Goggs and Gene. You're in
the Paracast.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best. Available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
It's a no-brainer. A Big Berkey water filter is the one you need, period. You need a water filter that removes chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, BPA, and other endocrine disruptors, pesticides, bacteria, viruses, and much more, right? And does it all at only 2 cents per gallon. Get the original and most trusted name in gravity water filtration, Big Berkey. And now GCN listeners receive 5% off ceramic filter systems using code GCN. Call or click 1-877-99-BERKEY or BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY.
Hello, this is Dr. Bill Deagle, MD of NutriMedical.com, announcing the breakthrough Red Deer Velvet DR. It delivers the protected building blocks of all organs and tissues, allowing your own stem cells as architects and engineers to regenerate you. Not since fetal life, when aging does not occur, has such an amazing NutriMed been available to help heal you and regenerate you. Anti-aging requires that you correct mineral, activated nutraceutical, and jump the gene defects and poor diet you have to deliver the cellular tools for rejuvenation. You must remove old damaged cells and replace them with your young healthy cells to wind the biological clock to a younger you. Order your Red Deer Velvet DR now at NutriMedical.com 24/7 or 888-212-8871. That's NutriMedical, N-U-T-R-I, medical, MEDICAL.com. Or call our order line 888-212-8871.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We're in our final 3 segments of our introductory meeting with Brent Raynes and the return of Goggs Mackay. Brent, please continue that discussion. That's fascinating.
Okay, well, anyway, I was still, looking at this blanket, and everything about it seemed very real. But I was thinking to myself, okay, I still don't want to go over to it. It's just feels kind of strange, And maybe it's a good thing I didn't, because as I was looking at it, it started to blur, like you're looking at something through binoculars and you change the focus. The only thing it was the only thing that was blurring. Everything else was normal focus. And this blanket just blurred its way out of existence. It was within moments gone.
Where did it do? So did you own a blanket like this? And where did you first get it? If it was like original real, if you know what I mean, not like some copy. Where did you get it?
Well, I don't think it was mine. It was just there. I mean, I knew my wife had some Indian type blankets because she's part Native American that was stored in a closet, but I didn't remember any being in my room. And then again, there it was in the dresser, which I didn't remember it being there, any of those blankets. And all I could tell you is it was a Native American type blanket, those kind of images on it. and then it just faded. It blurred out of sight, and then wasn't there. And I was certain I was wide awake. Then there's another issue that I was doing some paranormal investigations with some people, two of whom were actually UFO abductees. And one of them had been doing EVP work using a ghost box, which this was a Radio Shack digital radio, AM, FM, and it was modified so that it was on continuous scan. And the theory is that the spirit voices can ride over the white noise in between stations.
Yeah, and you know, you've got a really interesting one with, because people can say, oh, well, the odd word might come through as it's skipping channels. But if you get a full sentence over multiple sweeps, then the chances of that being just, random is just, really, really minuscule. So I've seen people using those ghost boxes, and sometimes some really relevant, timely stuff has come out that couldn't be by chance. So I do believe that they can be manipulated by spirits or whatever, and I do think they work. And sorry to interrupt, Brent, but I'm really interested in things like this technology and ghost boxes and stuff.
Well, we have done it both with the digital recorder, holding it, and also recording sessions with the ghost box. And the way it evolved was, this was in 2010, and it was, Keel had passed away in 2009, July 3rd. And so it was in March, we were at a haunted location, 2010, an old 100-year-old church, and we were in the basement, and people had heard footsteps. And so we're going to see if we could get anything. And honestly, I didn't think we did, that I could tell. But a couple months later, we were at a site investigating, and John Keel came through twice, and we asked about if there was Bigfoot in the area, and this voice said monsters. And, I showed this investigator that came through his ghost box. I says, now, John Keel called Bigfoot monster. It was a real popular term with him. He his first letter to me, I showed him his first letter that Keel wrote, and he said he was working on Strange Creatures from Time and Space, a book, an encyclopedia on monsters, he called it. In that book that later came out, the first chapter, he mentions the word monsters, in a lot of people's area worldwide.
So did he identify himself when he came through on the ghost box? So he actually said, I am John Keel.
He actually said John Keel. I heard it twice, and we recorded it. And then later I went back over my audio from March when I didn't think I heard anything, and there was a point where Brett Oldham asked Jesse, who was my wife's deceased brother, to come through. And what happened is a voice said what sounded like Keel, Johnny, and then there was like two voices arguing, and I let my wife hear it with headphones because it wasn't real loud, but I says, that sounds like your brother's voice arguing with somebody, and I think he's using really bad language. And she agreed. But what happened later, it was July 3rd. I've been kind of on the fence. Then July 3rd of 2010, we were doing a session at the home of Sandy Nichols near Nashville in Thompson Station. I asked him, I said, this is the 1-year anniversary of Keel's passing. Can we try to reach him? Sure, yeah. So we're recording this. I believe we had 3 recorders going, and we had a stereo speakers hooked up to the one of the radios. And Brett asked, can you get John Keel, because we work through these spirit guides, to say his name if he's there? And within seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, a male voice says John Keel.
It's a relevant and timely answer. So yeah, that's to me, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and this happened a number of times. And then we asked, now that he's on the other side, what can he tell us about Bigfoot? And this strong male voice said, "Smuck Bigfoot, see?" And then
Bigfoot.
Smuck. Sounded like Smuck Bigfoot. Yeah.
Right.
And then there was like two other voices that said, "See," and then another one said, "See." And so then I asked at one point about Jadu, and the voice said, "Jadu, eh?" That's what it sounded like, Jadu, and followed by eh. And we were kind of shocked, and I remember Brett was saying, "Did he just say it?" And Sandy says, "Yes, he just said the word." So I thought, okay, got to strike while the iron's hot. So I asked again, "Yes, what can you tell us about Jadu?" Which was, the part of the title of his first book back in 1957, Jadu, Mysteries of the Orient, where he had been traveling in Egypt and India and places and studying their ideas on mysticism. Jadu was black magic. And anyway, this voice sounded like the same voice, male voice, was talking, and he was fading in and out. But it started out with into the fire, and then blah, 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 mumble, mumble. Can't tell what he's saying. And then teach me outside.
You know what? We'll have to go outside if we don't have these announcements. They'll just toss us out. More to come with Brent, Gene, and Goggs. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
This is Fred.
Hi, I'm Fred.
Fred's a repeater.
I tend to repeat.
Fred has a business.
I do have a business.
And a problem. Fred repeats the same tired advertising over and over, and now it doesn't work.
Over and over.
But Fred is about to see a vision.
I'm seeing a vision.
Advertising on the Genesis Communications Network is the smart way for Fred to reach his potential customers with the most affordable national advertising rates, period. Get started today with GCN, the Genesis Communications Network. Just email advertise@gcnlive.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hey folks, Tom D for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, ghosts, zombies, UFOs, crop circles, and more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people who seek a little more than the other dating services offer. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and you want to connect with others, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. So many people want to share their experiences with the paranormal, the afterlife, the unusual, and this is the place to meet and share common interests with those of like minds. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com. That's ParanormalDate.com. Use the code word George and start meeting others. Get going now and connect with someone you like.
How well and how fast does Heart and Body Extract work to improve blood circulation? Listen.
My name is Ellis, and I'm 66 years old, and I live in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed as having clogged arteries. I had 70% blockage in one artery leading to my heart. They wanted me to go on Plavix, but I refused, knowing the negative side effects.
Heart and Body Extract is a unique balance, synergy, and proportion of herbs reaching from head to toe at maximum absorption around 95% at the cellular level.
Within the first month, I felt a dramatic difference. The heaviness in my legs was reduced, and within 2 months, I felt completely normal.
Your natural organic herbal formula for heart health is Heart and Body Extract. Heart and Body Extract comes with a 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract. Call 866-295-5305, 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Hi, this is Joshua P. Warren, author of The Poor Man's Paranormal, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Goggs Mackay. And we're going to have Brent try the Paracast a little bit later. Brent Raynes, Gene Steinberg. Interesting about the stuff with John Keel. Now, we had a John Keel memorial episode probably a few months after he died. There was a general consensus here that as much as his viewpoints were interesting, intriguing, thought-provoking, his investigative process could have been more rigorous. In doing a biography of Keel, what's your perception?
Well, you know, he made some mistakes. That's addressed in the book too. One of which was the time he was in the area sky watching, and he talked about how the moon didn't come up when it was supposed to, and come to find out, he supposedly got that information from a local paper. But if he had pursued it further, looked into it further, he would have known that the moon, he thought it was supposed to rise at something like 129. It didn't come up. And in fact, it came up, I think, a little after 3 o'clock. And I provide a link on the readers of the book can actually check and see that the correct time it was supposed to have risen. So he made a mistake there. He sounded like, from my communications with him, that he initially was kind of hesitant to even write the book, The Mothman Prophecies, and had all of his notes and things stored in a big suitcase.
Do you think maybe he saw himself more as a journalist rather than a UFO researcher?
Well, he wrote on other areas too, and not just strictly the UFO. He was interested in reptiles and snakes and things, and wrote novels, fiction. He used to write screenplays and used to write scripts for Lost in Space, the old Lost in Space episodes of the 60s. Yeah. And he worked with like Merv Griffin and others. He would be in the background providing humorous comments, I think, through a earpiece that they would have. He was pretty good at a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor and such, and he was used by, people in the television industry to come up with ideas and, comments and write screenplays for different programs.
Do you know which ones?
Which programs?
Yes.
He did write Lost in Space, and I would have to, unfortunately, look that up again. I do mention some of these. He also was a science writer for a while, editor or science writer for Funk and Wagnall's Encyclopedia, and he worked different jobs in Washington, D.C. For different branches of the government. I think one was Air Force Office of Information and the Health Department. and he got around and did quite a bit. He seemed to be always writing something. I remember reading that he would even go to the bathroom with a typewriter, still clicking away.
Well, that certainly puts an odor on those particular books, but more to the point, what's so sad about it is probably Mothman Prophecies in the end was his most successful book because he sold it as a movie and made some money from that. At the end of his life, he was in pretty bad financial shape. So whatever he did, it didn't have staying power, did it?
No, he had a difficult time. In the end, he kind of, I think people found that it was kind of difficult sometimes I was told to be around him because he would be kind of depressed and kind of negative in some of his comments. I know he wrote me once that we were just kind of coming to the end and we were never going to figure it all out. And he had come to believe pretty much that we were dealing with deceptive intelligences that were quite negative. I asked him, we were talking once about angels, the Marian apparitions, and I asked, you're always writing about the demonic type stuff, the deceptive trickster type elements. How about something positive? And he said back in the late 60s, 70s, he circulated some sort of paper. He says, maybe you didn't get it, but in that document, I pointed out that I felt that what we were dealing with didn't have our best interests in mind. I want to take a more upbeat approach. I realize there is the negative and there is the positive, and there is, there are a lot of deceptive elements that seem to creep into these things. I know that, for example, my communications, apparent communications with John Keel, is something that he had stated that sort of thing he believed was not real, that what you were getting was actually a mimic or a being that was pretending to be someone else and not that person on the other side.
It's very interesting here that this demonology kind of approach, some religions consider UFOs to be demonic and therefore evil. I know that my late uncle, Lewis Kaplan, he was my wife's uncle, he was the brother of my father-in-law, he was involved in a so-called Jews for Jesus movement, and he lived out in Scottsdale, Arizona in his final years. And they gave me a book on UFOs where they had to state some kind of incantation to get rid of the evil UFOs. And I was thinking of John Constantine, the DC character, who would be this professional exorcist or something. So did you follow much of that? Is that something similar to what Keel believed without the religious overtones?
Yeah, that, he considered himself more, at times he said he was more of a demonologist than anything, even though he was a lifelong atheist and he had nothing to feel really upbeat about with the phenomena, which kind of pretty disturbing perspective, really. He just saw tricksters everywhere. And he said even the angel type experiences, the Marian apparitions, that he said they always end up with a sour ending, is the way I think he described it. And but I keep looking for optimistically that it's not quite the way that Keel had portrayed, although he certainly brought a lot of this into focus, and there's a lot of elements to these stories that you do have to wonder about, and is this really on the level? The stories of the beings do often seem to be deceptive, trickster-like, and they come from all over the universe, places we've never even heard of, hundreds and hundreds of places from the accounts that we get, or else they're all from familiar places we hear about, the Zeta Reticula or the Sirius constellation. But I do know that these things do exist. I mean, like, to me, I have gotten, and I've posted some of these recordings that we've had from in the February and March issue of 2017 and Alternate Perceptions. And just to show you how interactive it can be, I had one where here at my home, just my wife and me, doing a recording, and suddenly I got John Keel, Bert here, and Bert was Berthold Schwartz, who was a psychiatrist who I'd corresponded with for about 37 years.
We're going to get into that in our next segment. We have one more segment with Brent Raynes. We have Goggs Mackay. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Fellow Patriots, my name is Todd Savage, founder of BlackRifleRealEstate.com. Like you, I was a prisoner of the out-left sanctuary state until one day I chose to lead my family to freedom. Today we live on a sustainable 20-acre homestead where we shoot, hunt, garden, and homeschool our children without the tyranny of the nanny state looking over us. If you're ready to flee the city to the freedom of Idaho or Montana, our Black Rifle Real Estate team is here to help. Go to BlackRifleRealEstate.com. That's BlackRifleRealEstate.com.
You have been lied to, generation after generation, time after time after time.
If you follow the money, then you understand why America's in the condition it's in.
You know, you created the Federal Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11. Through 9/11, then you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie.
This book will open people's eyes. Pre-order now at KillingUncleSamBook.com. KillingUncleSamBook.com.
Are you retired or facing retirement and you're afraid your income is going to be less than you'd like? I'm Pharmacist Keith. Dr. Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and I want to show you a low-cost way to create your own business working around your current schedule, creating extra income that will last for years to come by joining Dr. Wallach's crusade, spreading his message of better health. To learn more, visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com, radio.recordedvideo.com, or call 866-257-3105 for a recorded message.
It's been said, any society is only 3 missed meals away from chaos. Those times may be near. Think about it. Our country faces multiple terrorist threats and aggressions from Russia and North Korea. Social unrest and violent marches yet again may lead to looting of stores and city shutdowns. And our crumbling infrastructure leaves our power grid vulnerable to long-term outages from a single cyber attack. When the chaos from any one of these threats arises, the government knows it can't provide during a widespread national emergency. That's why you need your own plan for self-reliance. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. Get a 4-week survival food supply for only $99. That includes breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Order online at preparewithgcn.com. $99 for 4 weeks of survival food that tastes like homemade cooking and lasts up to 25 years from My Patriot Supply. Get your kits today at preparewithgcn.com. Free shipping is included. Preparewithgcn.com.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
This is Jacques Vallee. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Back at you, the Paracast, and we're continuing our visit with Brent Raynes of Alternate Perceptions magazine. You know, next time you come on the show, we'll have you on in the future. I'd like to bring along some of the recordings you've made, the ones you have posted at the Alternate Perceptions site, and let's see what our listeners think. And maybe what we'll do is we'll have extended captures of them for the After the Paracast podcast for Paracast Plus members. I think that would be interesting. We've done that before. We had Michael Esposito on.
Yeah, for EVPs, yeah.
Right. We had that on with Chris, and we presented some of those things, and some of them just junk noise, as far as I'm concerned. Others, you know, you start thinking, it's not a Rorschach test. There's something more going on here.
Yeah, I was very skeptical, to say in the beginning, and if it hadn't been so specific, you know, some people would get excited when they'd hear yes and no, and I'd say, well, that's really not what I want to hear. But we had, for example, an entity that seemed to come through named Enoch. I thought it was like Enoch with an O. Some people thought it was Enoch with an I. So one day I asked, which is it? Is it I or O? And this voice said Enoch with an O. And at the end of each session, we would say, we want to clear the session. Tell us when it's clear. Quite a number of times the voice would say clear, but this one time, you know, when we wanted to end the session, instead of saying clear, this one voice said, this cannot clear, this is energy, which, you know, right after I'd asked for them to say clear. There was just a lot of interactive examples like that. And then one time there was a contactee in Australia, and she and a friend of hers had been doing some kind of exercises, Tai Chi-like exercises. While they were doing it, this voice, supposedly a spirit alien type voice, out of the air said, fingers together. And so this was an instruction for them to, you know, put their fingers together while they were doing what they were doing.
Brent, like fingers together, like when people are doing a seance or something. What? You know,
well, this was like the Tai Chi, you know, they do these like kung fu type moves, but in slow motion or something.
Yeah.
So they along with this book publicist for this lady, this bodiless voice instructed these two ladies, one of them in particular, to fingers together. We did a session with the Ghost Box. I told them to synchronize our time as best we could and have them send me a message, and I would run the Ghost Box for about 5 minutes and see if I could pick up what they were going to send me. But I had no idea what it was going to be. And so these three women communicated among themselves, and they wanted it to be fingers together. So when we played back the audio, we got fingers together, plus it sounds like think, Ted, hold your fingers together. Another time there was a woman who, we were on a ghost investigation in Sloss Furnace, Birmingham, Alabama. Supposed to be a very, very haunted site. And she wanted to, you know, see if this ghost box thing really worked. You know, the leader of her group was quite skeptical, which I can understand. Anyway, so she asked the box, says, when we'd have family reunions, we would always talk about a certain holiday that my grandfather and his dad had in common. What was it? And this voice came through and twice expressed Father's Day, and she picked up on it right off. I couldn't tell what it was until I played it back. And she said, yes, that was it. Her grandfather and her dad both died on that holiday, Father's Day. And so that to her was confirmation.
Would you say that was like a Class A EVP kind of thing, crystal clear and, no doubt about it?
Yeah, these are the better ones. You can, as I say, you can go to the February and March 2017, and toward the bottom of the page of my reality checking column, I put these different audios with a little description. It's always best to use good headphones. You listen for it, and, if you've got pretty good average hearing, you should be able to hear these things.
I kind of think we need to explore more detail here on the Paracast. We've had scattershot approaches. Isn't this weird? And we never take it beyond the isn't this weird. And then again, if we're returning to the so-called unified field theory, is any of this related to any of the other mysteries, or do we just have a bunch of wacky things that go on and we need to look into each and every one?
Well, I think, that Keel did some things wrong, but then again, on the other hand, he got us to thinking about so many things, and he got out in the field and he did his best. You can go to www.johnkeel.com that his friend Doug Skinner puts out every month with letters and copies of clippings and things from Keel's old archives, showing that he really was very obsessed with this subject and trying to figure it out. One of his better cases in Maryland that supposedly supported, of course, the Woodrow Derenberger case turned out to be a hoaxer. He apparently kind of fell for that. We always face that challenge when we're dealing with people's accounts. We never know when we're dealing necessarily with a fully real one or genuine personality or hoaxer. There's so many of these cases, and as I say, trying to find the commonalities, connect the dots. In Keel's case with that subject in Maryland as a college student, he liked fiction, and he'd heard Woodrow Derenberger on a Washington, D.C. radio program and just thought he'd call in. He'd never realized they tracked the phone numbers, so he got a call back afterwards. He thought he could just do it anonymously, and that would be the end of it. And at least this is what he claimed later. But there's so many in the Derenberger case that Keel investigated. There were other witnesses that saw craft and things the night of his initial encounter, and he reported it to the police, and something initially happened, although he began to wonder about some of his later claims. That wasn't too far from Point Pleasant, where all that was going on with the UFOs and the so-called Mothman and other creatures. Very strange circumstances, high strangeness.
I'm just reading here, Brent, in one of your magazine articles about an EVP of a loud explosion. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Wow, a loud explosion?
Yeah, it's you've written in I'll tell you specifically. It was in the article EVP or not to be. Okay, what was the question again? By Brent Raynes, and kind of down near the bottom, there's a talk about how you'd got a very clear explosion sound coming through as an EVP instead of speech, as if it may be the actual sound of an explosion that has happened or maybe yet to happen or something. But it's a bit like almost like a residual haunting. It's I think what you're trying to say is like maybe a retelling of an actual explosion that happened somewhere. Does that ring a bell, or is it just so many things in the past?
I remember writing that article, and I think I was describing different EVPs, and some of it was mine, and some of it was some of the people I was working with. I'm really not sure. I'd have to go back to that and kind of refresh my memory on that. Huh.
You're also talking about getting some humor from the afterlife, EVPs that are funny or some kind of communication.
Yeah. There was one I had played where someone, it was Brett Oldham, who we were doing a session. We were trying to communicate with John Keel, and he said, "John, this is Brett Oldham. I'm a friend of Brent Raynes, and we're supposed to be communicating with John Keel." And the voice said, "Bummer."
We've got Andy here with a cliffhanger, like they do with TV series when they end the season.
A cliffhanger, huh?
Where can we find more information about you, Brent?
Okay, you can go online at apmagazine.info, and I edit an online magazine there that comes out once a month around the 1st. We have years of back-issued archived materials. We have feature articles, interviews, book reviews, the whole 9 yards, cover everything from archaeological mysteries, shamanism, paranormal, UFOs.
It's worth looking at. Yeah, go for it. It's worth looking at.
We can find us on Twitter if you look for the Paracast. Check out the Paracast fan clubs on Facebook. Check out Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. We give you an ad-free version of this show with better quality audio, the After the Paracast podcasts, and more. Prices start just $1.49 a week, but if you go for the lifetime subscription, we give you free books, really free stuff, and other free stuff for the 5 years. Thank you very much, Brent Raynes, for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Gordon. Appreciate it.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.